Hey guys, what's up? Zax here. Today we are here with a brand new video. Today we're going to be looking back at some of the F1 news over the last week or so. I haven't really been doing too much F1 news since the Nico Hulkenberg move to Renault hit our channel. So yeah, not too much has happened since then. No big news really, but I do want to go through a couple of things, including my thoughts on the 2016 United States Grand Prix. However, I don't want to start there. I want to talk about F1 2017 first, because they've revealed now they're going to be doing both of the preseason tests at Barcelona. Now, Pirelli, if for some reason they really want to do a test in Bahrain, I think it was to sort of test the tyres and their extremes, because in Bahrain it can obviously get very hot, and if Pirelli test them there, you'd think that they could definitely see how far they can push them before they hit the limit. But that would have cost a lot more for the teams to go there and do some pre-season testing there than it would do if they did it in Barcelona. I think it was like £400,000 would be the difference between doing testing at Spain and testing in Bahrain, and £400,000 is a lot, whatever team you are. I think Mercedes and Ferrari backed Pirelli to go there and do it, but obviously they've got the most money. Then people, I think, like Force India, Red Bull, someone like them, they weren't too up for it because they didn't want to spend that much money on going over like the other side of the world to test a couple of tyres for a couple of days. So I can understand it. Maybe it would make more sense to do a pre-season test earlier on in the year whilst we were at Bahrain, or maybe whilst we we're in Abu Dhabi this year. I mean, the heat can get there pretty hot in the middle of the day. So I'm not sure exactly what Pirelli are thinking. Maybe they had a special plan about Bahrain, but it seems a bit random just to go there. There are obviously tracks where it could be hotter. It could be really hot in Spain as well, but I'm not really sure about the full details of what they really wanted to go to Bahrain. But I think it was to test the extremes of the tyres. So yeah, anyway, they had a big meeting, Bernie Ecclestone, Charlie Whiting, the whole FIA, all of the team managers and all that, and they decided to go to Spain in the end. That was sort of an overall decision there. Obviously, not everyone wanted to go to Spain, not everyone wanted to go to Bahrain, but they came to a conclusion that Spain was the best place, the most cost-effective place to get those tyres tested. And yeah, so that's going to be a pre-season test, both of them in Spain, in Catalonia, Barcelona, whatever you want to call it. Next year, that is where the pre-season test, both of them, will be held. Next up, I want to ask, do you guys like the look of the new 2017 cars? Obviously we don't have a complete picture yet. They will be different to what we've seen in the pictures and what we've seen in the Mercedes, like the altered Mercedes with the big tyres on the back, the different front wing, the different rear wing. Do you guys like that? I mean, personally for me, I'm really loving the look of those cars. They look a lot more mean and aggressive, and since we sort of backed down to the smaller engines, the cars haven't looked quite as cool, and I think we need to go back to the cars looking cool. And big old rear tyres, and they actually look quite similar to the Formula Renault 3.5s. They've got those massive rear wheels and it's quite a short short rear wing, and then sort of quite a big front wing. They look quite similar to those, and for me, I really like that because I really love the look of those Formula Renaults, and they look pretty similar to that. Obviously, not all of the F1 cars are gonna look the same, but for me personally, I think these cars will look a lot more mean, aggressive, and hopefully they should be a lot sort of more, aesthetically, appealing to look at. Because let's be honest, a lot of this year's cars aren't that nice to look at. They're definitely a lot better than when there was a big old sort of blob stuck on the front of them a couple of years ago. I think that was like 2014, wasn't it, when they had to lower the front nose height and they just literally just stuck like a load of whatever on the front of the wing to just make it legal. So yeah, it's going to look a lot better than that, but I'd like to know in the comment section down below, are you a fan? Are you not a fan? Let me know. Next up, I want to talk about the American Grand Prix this weekend, United States Grand Prix, sorry. And well, I've seen the first two practice session results, and it's Mercedes dominating so far, but Daniel Ricciardo's come out and said, we've got a chance here, guys. The Red Bull is as good, or maybe even better, than the Mercedes round here. So that's quite surprising for me to hear, because I know the Red Bull's obviously a very good car. They've been catching up throughout the whole season. They're definitely a lot closer now than they were at the start of the season. But I just can't see it on actual pace. I can't see the Red Bull being close enough. They've got that big old back straight where I can just see the Mercedes, if it's lost maybe half a second around the rest of the lap, it can easily get past Red Bull down that back straight, and also down the home straight as well. I think they're probably going to be quicker. Mercedes, I can't really see a reason why Mercedes would realistically be slower than Red Bull round here. They've got everything still, Mercedes. They're not going to suddenly drop off. Yes, Singapore last year was a bit random when they suddenly were nowhere, but this isn't a Singapore type track. And I think personally, I still think Mercedes is going to be on top, but I'd love to see Red Bull a lot closer, obviously, because we want to have a good battle for the lead of this race. But I don't know. I can't personally see Red Bull winning this. So if I say that, who's going to win this race? I mean, I said for a long time, I think Lewis Hamilton is going to win this race because I think he's got nothing to lose at this point. He can literally just go for it. He can push Rosberg out of the way. He can risk the penalty really now at this point of doing something over the top because he's quite far behind the championship. And I think Rosberg can finish second place in every single race now and he can win the championship. So Hamilton, I'm not saying something bad here, but he can set technically, make an outcome in the championship if he pushes Rosberg wide. Not like over the top, but within the rules, pushes him wide. Rosberg loses time, drops down the order. That way, Hamilton can affect the championship. He can affect it for himself. So maybe he has to be a bit more aggressive in this race to try and purposely make an advantage for him there that might have not been there otherwise. I'm not saying he's going to cheat. Don't get me wrong here. Within the rules, I think he can definitely still win this championship, but he's going to have to try and maybe be a bit more aggressive when he tries to overtake people now. Go for it a little bit earlier because at this point he doesn't really have much to lose because he is so far back in the championship, 33 points with like 4 races to go. It's very, very viable for Rosberg to just sit there in second place and just take that because he can win the championship like that. But he's obviously not going to want to do that because that's quite I'd say sort of an easy way to sit back and do it. But Rosberg hasn't won a championship yet. Let's not forget that because Hamilton sort of sat back at the end of last year and just sort of took the second places because he had the championship wrapped up. But Rosberg, he's never won a championship before, so maybe he's going to have to go for that killer instinct of try and get a race victory. But for me personally, this weekend, I think it's going to be Hamilton. I think he's going to just go for it. I think he's going to win it. He's always been good around this track. He beat Vettel when Vettel was absolutely incredible back here in like 2012, I think it was. So yeah, I think it's going to be Hamilton, but Rosberg, from free practice at least, is nowhere near as far behind as I expected. So lastly, I want to talk about Renault because Jolyon Palmer came out recently and said that he doesn't think that Renault completely appreciates him and Kevin Magnussen so far this year. Obviously, their car's been absolutely terrible, and for whoever actually loses out next year, it's quite disappointing because they haven't really had a fair shot at decent points this year because, let's be honest, it's sort of basically a car from last year that Lotus design basically, isn't it? Because they basically had all the stuff and then Renault sort of took out this whole deal quite late on in the season, so it's basically a very badly developed car from last year. So it's disappointing that Palmer or Magnussen, obviously they're both not going to get a chance in Formula 1 with Renault next year because they've already signed Hülkenberg. So I feel a bit, from reading this, I do sort of feel that Palmer could be possibly on the exit door at Renault here. I'm not sure whether Magnussen is really up for staying. We talked about it earlier that the day that Hülkenberg was signed was actually the last day that Magnussen had as a date for, getting a contract for next season. So it doesn't look like Magnussen's going to be staying. It might even not look like Palmer's staying, but because of the look of what he's saying here, he doesn't think. Mate, you have to, with a lot of these interviews, because F1 drivers are so vague in their interviews nowadays, you've got to sort of look between the lines, read between the lines, guys. You use your GCSE English, and from what Palmer said there, I would kind of say that he might be at the exit door at Renault come the end of the season because he's not exactly being the nicest towards Renault here, saying that they don't appreciate what they've been doing this year. Especially, Renault basically gave Palmer and Magnussen a seat and a big opportunity here with a big team, but it obviously didn't quite work out. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how this all works out, guys. I mean, personally for me, I'd love to see Esteban Ocon in Renault. I mean, I know he's had a pretty poor season whilst he's coming to Formula 1 at the end here, but I'm a fan of Esteban Ocon, and, I'd love to see him get into a top seat. And I wouldn't say, like, I followed him a huge amount, but, of recent, in GP3 and the year before in Formula Renault, I was keeping an eye on him, and he was doing a really good job. So, I just sort of ended up supporting him in those lower Formula. But in terms of Formula 1, I still don't really have a driver I completely support here. And I'm looking, Daniel Kvyat's probably the person I most support because I just love the way that he drives. I love the way in the interviews he's quite, realistic. He actually just says what he means, and that's what I like about him, especially because he's not even in the top team. He's sort of risking a lot by saying, what he says in interviews sometimes. So let me know in the comment section down below what you thought on all of these videos. F1 2017 testing, do you think that's the right decision to go to Barcelona for both of them? What do you think of the F1 2017 cars? Are you a fan? Do you think they're pretty rubbish? Or, you're just a bit excited to see what's going to happen with these awesome looking cars? Or yeah, and the United States Grand Prix, what do you think? I mean, if I go for a top three here, I'll probably go with Hamilton, Rosberg, Ricciardo. I think it's my top three. And in terms of Palmer, what do you think is going to happen there? I mean, honestly, from what he said there, I mean, it's quite a long time for the end of the season, let's be honest. We've still got a couple of months for that all to be sorted out. But I can't really see Palmer staying at Renault at this point. I don't know, just from what he's saying and maybe what the team is sort of, giving us in terms of information, I don't know whether I can completely see it actually working out for them. So that is it for this video, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Hopefully you have enjoyed it. I appreciate you guys watching once again. Thank you for the support on yesterday's video. It was something a little bit different, but it was actually really exciting to do, and hopefully we can do something like that in the future. So thanks again. Hopefully you enjoyed this F1 news. It's been Alex out here. Goodbye. Thanks for watching the video, guys. As always, I really appreciate it. And if you did like the video and haven't yet, leaving a like on the video is always appreciated. It helps me grow the channel, which is really important. Also, if you're brand new to the channel and haven't subscribed, that is really awesome as well. It shows you're liking the content I'm putting out, and I probably should be doing more of that. Also, if you haven't checked out my social media links, they're all linked down below. For example, my Facebook, Twitter, also my Instagram's down there as well. So, if you want to, that would really be cool down there. Interact with you guys as much as possible on all of those platforms. And also, if you have missed the video on the screen right now, that will link back to a couple of different videos over the week or so that I use this outro, so hopefully you guys understand. Anyway, thank you for watching. Have a great day. It's been Alex here. Goodbye.